Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. This is another week and another Rekkles and K-Corp update. This has been really one of my favorite series on my channel throughout the whole year of 2022 is following Rekkles and his adventures through the ERLs because Rekkles is super popular. I like watching him and K-Corp is doing some really cool stuff. And of course, like I said, Rekkles is popular, so people like hearing what's going on with him, and not everybody stays super up to date with the LFL. So this kind of series of mine has been my way of tracking and also keeping you guys up to date with everything that is going on. When we checked in with K-Corp last week, they had their awesome KCX2 event. It was insane. Really like nothing else we've seen in competitive League of Legends from an ERL team for a regular season game. But overall, their week did not go the best. This is checking in with last week. They had June 21st. This was their KCX2 game. They actually lost to Misfits Academy. They ended up beating Vitality B the next day, and then they ended up losing to LDLC. So when we catch up with them this week, they're coming off a 1-2 week, but they were still sitting at 5-3. K-Corp was definitely not looking like the best team in the LFL. They definitely weren't even looking like the second best team in the LFL, but they were still strong. They were still, you know, top 3, top 4. Rekkles has still been really good throughout the summer split. And of course, if you have Rekkles and Cavo, you're always going to be a team that's going to be scary and one to watch of you like heating up, you know, especially as we get deeper into the season, closer to playoffs, that type of stuff. But K-Corp definitely needs to get hot. They need to start figuring some things out and need to start winning some games, especially guys like, you know, Hantera, 113. They're, you know, we went through last split where maybe they had some excuses and stuff, but now at this split, it's put up or shut up at some point. So let's see what Rekkles and K-Corp were able to do this week. Kind of interesting that, well, this is actually the week before. And then their games, their most recent games we're catching up with, did not go so well. They were playing up against Team Opline, which should be a very winnable game for K-Corp. But unfortunately, they were taken down in this one. You can see 113 dropping a 3-8-3 game. He dies more times than I've really seen anyone in quite some time die, especially on a winning team. Again, K-Corp is one of the top teams in the LFL, and 113 will drop so many 5, 6, 7, 8 death games in competitive, which is really crazy, especially, like I said, if you're on a losing team and you're dying that much, maybe there's a reason. Maybe, you know, you're trying to win, you're trying to make some comeback plays, whatever. But if you're on a winning team and you have this many games dying this much, like, that's just going to put your team in such a bad position so many games, especially with a guy like Rekkles who likes to scale up, likes to get to those late game fights. If the game is 50-50 or 60-40 or somewhere later on in the game, Rekkles is always going to give you a shot to maybe win that one big team fight to crack the game open. But if you have 8 deaths and the game is like 80-20 or 90-10 or even worse at that point, that's just always going to be so detrimental. And 113 is a guy with a ton of potential, a ton of talent. That's why K-Corp would have brought him in the first place, obviously. Young guy, inexperienced. But like I said, you know, now into the second split with K-Corp, I would really like to see some more development from him on this point. But we did not get that, obviously. Rekkles going 2-2-3 on the Ezreal. Surenfire, former Team Liquid member, 7-0-5. Pretty impressive game from him overall. And yeah, Team Opline pulls out the dub, the upset win over K-Corp. So now K-Corp drops to 1-3 in their last 4 games. Definitely worrying, definitely concerning. Again, these are your not only defending EU Masters champions, but your 3-time back-to-back defending EU Masters champions. Obviously, K-Corp's had a lot of talent and a lot of impressive players on their roster over the past 3 splits, but this team is no different. This team at their best is absolutely an EU Masters contender, but Rekkles and the gang have not been able to really put it all together during an LFL regular season or playoffs yet, and I don't really know what to make of it. But they would still have one more game this past week to actually bounce back with, and this was a date with Game Ward. This is a team that they have already lost to this season. I believe they beat Opline earlier in the season, so now they're 1-1 with them. With Game Ward, they were already 0-1, and obviously this game would not go so well. 14,000 almost gold deficit to end the game, so this one was a stomp. It was only 9-5 in kills, which is kind of interesting, but 11-3 in towers, 3-0 inhibs, 2-0 barons, 5-0 dragons. Ugh, that is a rough one for K-Corp. No one really stood out with a terrible scoreline or anything like that, but like I said, they just kind of slowly bled out. I mean, to have to only be down 4 kills and be down 14,000 gold, I mean, you are just giving everything. You are not even putting up a fight at that point. Rekkles goes 1-0-3 on the Zeri. He goes deathless, but I mean, what does it even mean to go deathless when you lost everything and then they take your base? But obviously, Jekko Lad is kind of the big name for this team, going 1-1-5. Inax has been very, very good throughout this LFL split. He is 3-0-4 on the Ezreal. And yeah, 1-1-3. He goes 0-3-2 in this game on Wukong. Not super good. Seiken kind of had a rough week. Overall, just not a lot going right for K-Corp right now. And again, they fall to 1-4 in their last 5 games. And every time I talk about K-Corp, somebody says like, hey, how do you think they would do in the LEC? Like, how good do you think they'd be in the LEC? And I've been telling people they would probably not do very good in the LEC. I've been telling people they are probably bottom 3, but you could definitely make a case that they would be the worst team in the LEC. If we go back and look, at the LFL, I have it right here. In the LFL, in the spring regular season, they went 12-6. You know, they had a 67% win rate. Yes, they finished second. They finished tied for second, so maybe you could argue they finished third. But it's not like they're stomping the LFL. And this isn't even EU Masters. This is just one European Regional League. It is the best European Regional League, but still, it's not like they were absolutely dominant. You look at K-Corp. They definitely lost their fair share of games to all different kinds of teams. And I mean, 12-6, that's like a good record in the LEC. If you're going to say you're going to be like a playoff team in the LEC or a top team in the LEC or something like that, you got to be going more than 12-6. Like, you put G2 in the LFL, they're not going 12-6. Even you put a middle of the pack team like Vitality into the LFL, they're not going 12-6. They're doing much better than that, and that's just the reality of things. And then, you look ahead to the spring playoffs, and it's not like K-Corp was dominant there either. K-Corp, let me find them. They got 3-0'd by LDLC. Then they get 3-1 by BDS Academy. And yes, LDLC is a nice team, but they have Aka. He went to the LCS and was seen as one of the worst mid laners in the league. Like, being good in the ERLs and even being good in EU Masters is far, far, far different from the LEC. When you're playing up against LEC teams, you're playing up against 5 players most of the time, 99% of the time, 5 players that are LEC level talent. How many teams in the ERLs have 5 players that are LEC level? Like we said, K-Corp just won EU Masters last split. They were the best team in all of the ERLs. Does K-Corp have 5 LEC level players on it? Absolutely not. Seiken is maybe LEC level. I could see him being a mid to bottom tier mid laner in the LEC. Hantera is not. 113 is not. Cabochard is. Rekkles is. But they do not have 5 LEC level players. And, you look at some of the bad teams in the LEC, maybe you say they don't either, but SK, Astralis, whoever you want to say, Misfits right now. Like, do you want to see guys like VTO going up against Seiken? Do you want to see guys like Schlatan going up against, 113 in this form right now? Like, yes, K-Corp is popular. I like it, and we hope they get into the LEC. But if they get into the LEC, they would absolutely be making upgrades. 113 would not be on their roster. Hantera would not be on their roster. You think they would make a K-Corp Academy. They would still play in the LFL, and that's where guys like Hantera and 113 develop. So I just keep getting this question of like how I think K-Corp would do in the LEC. Definitely not very good. If we look at the LFL standings right now, we will see that K-Corp is currently 5-5. They are in 4th place. They're behind Vitality B, who they just beat last week, and then Game Ward, who they're 0-2 against, and LDLC, who I believe they are 0-1 against. So, yes, they're in 4th place, but a 500 record 10 games into the season is not great. Another thing that I think is interesting is, so even though Riot's taking this break, no LCS, no LEC this week and all that stuff, the LFL is still going on. K-Corp has games July 6th and 7th. They play against Gamers Origin, which should be a very, very winnable game for them. On the 6th, and then they are actually playing up against, let me see, I can't find them here, Team BDS Academy on the next day, and this should be a much more competitive game. This is definitely a game that K-Corp needs to win. This is a week that they need to go 2-0. If we take a look at some of the stats for the LFL season so far, this says 11 games in, but those standings were 10, so something's not up to date here. But yeah, K-Corp, not K-Corp, but Rekkles, overall, he still has a really good KDA. He is still Rekkles. He is still playing really, really well. Only 13 deaths puts him, towards the top in the deaths leaderboard, only behind Inax. X-Maddie's only played 2 games. So in terms of deaths, he's only behind Inax. In terms of KDA, I believe he's behind 2 people, Exakick and Inax. Again, the 80 carries for the 2 best teams. So that's not totally surprising. His lane stats are all messed up because there's so much like fasting Senna and stuff like that right now. But then again, in terms of DPM, he is second, again, only to Inax. Inax has been very, very good, but he's obviously playing on a very, very good team in Game Ward as well. Rekkles, the fact that his stats are standing out on a more middle-of-the-pack team right now in K-Corp, I think is really, really impressive. So even though K-Corp has only won one out of their last 5 games, Rekkles is still being himself. He is still popping off. He is still probably the best AD carry in the ERLs and in that kind of form, and that's not shocking to say. Obviously, this guy was an LEC MVP last year. He should be the best AD carry in the ERLs, but definitely the players like Hantera, like Saken, like 113 need to step up a little bit, but it's just a regular season. They got time. They kind of struggled in the regular season last year before figuring things out once they actually got to EU Masters. Obviously, that's not ideal, but we'll have to wait and see. But that is our Rekkles and K-Corp update for the week. I just wanted to get this video out to you guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about K-Corp and Rekkles. Are you worried for K-Corp? Do you think they're going to be okay? You think they're going to turn things around? Or do you think somebody else is going to win the championship this season? I'm talking about EU Masters. I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to today and all my latest content. Make sure to check out the Discord. First link in the description below. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.